Hello, Canucks fans. Welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, brought to you by Bet365. Check out Bet365's 3-goal early payout. When your team goes up 3, you get paid. It's that simple. Download the app today. Must be 19 plus. Please play responsibly. My name is Dave Woodrelli. I am joined by Harman Dial, and we're coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studios. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. Harm, how you doing? Sunshine, man. I love it.
Doing well. I'm excited for the draft lottery, less than a week away. I'm getting into my Gavin McKenna prep, right? I'm really starting to dive into some tape. I'm going to have a piece over at The Athletic later this week, breaking down the video side, the numbers, and really diving into how good is Gavin McKenna actually. And it's fun to dream a little bit, right? Maybe those dreams will be squashed. I shouldn't say maybe. Those dreams will likely be squashed.
55% chance.
On Tuesday. But dare to dream for now, right?
Dare to dream. So, I'm sorry, are you doing a Gavin McKenna hype piece, like right before we find out if the Canucks are going to be able to get him?
No, not right before. It's probably going to drop on Friday. So
that's 2 business days before we find out.
But it's not like I'm dropping it the day of and then it's like 8 hours later they end up falling.
All right. I guess. All right, everybody, look for the Gavin McKenna hype piece. Get you really excited. It's like that, the Nathan Fielder video where we get kids excited for pizza and then leave the room. That's like what this might end up being. So hopefully. But
I'm also trying to make it legitimately balanced. I'm not just writing a hype piece. It's what are the pros, what are the cons, and of course there's going to be a lot of hype because of the caliber of player he is. But I don't like that a lot of times with number one picks we overhype them to such a degree, or just top prospects in general. And especially on, I think, YouTube, sometimes you'll see, oh, this is the greatest prospect in a decade or whatever, right? I'm not writing this piece with that type of intent. I want to calibrate expectations accordingly.
Fair enough. I'm excited to talk about that and what you found. In the meantime, we're not going to spend too much time on the draft lottery, but it is less than a week away. Today, Tuesday, is the draft lottery, which is also our draft lottery watch party. May 5th, Tuesday. Sounds like 4 p.m. it's going to be for the actual draft lottery. So come hang out with us at Greta. We'll be doing a live stream as well. We'll be breaking down the draft lottery in real time, live reactions, giveaways, and everything you need as the future of Vancouver hockey starts to take shape. You can stream the event live on YouTube, or if you're in the area, come hang out with us. Greta Bar YVR, 50 West Cordova Street is the address. Let the games begin. All right. Let's get right to Irf. You want to just get right to Irf?
Let's do it.
Irfaan Gaffar joins us. He's a presentation of our friends over at Pacific Toyota Dealers and the Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid, a no-compromise approach to electric vehicles that offers the best of both worlds. Drive up 72 kilometers on battery alone, enough to get you from downtown to the rink, the grocery store, and home to recharge. Seamlessly transition from electric mode to the gas engine for a combined range of 962 kilometers. There's no sacrifices when it comes to horsepower style with its sleek, low and wide exterior and sophisticated interior. It's loaded with tech that's actually easy to use. Plug in to recharge at home or at one of the over 2,000 public charging stations in BC alone. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer during Red Tag Days from March through May. All right. Let's bring in Irfaan Gaffar, who's been called negative in our chat.
I literally was about to say that. Have I ever been like negative?
I don't think you're negative. I appreciate that you keep it real, but I don't think you're negative per se.
I mean, I'm very happy. At the end of the day, what happens with the Canucks doesn't affect my life. So that's probably one of the things why people think I'm negative. But I am happy. The sun is shining. The birds are chirping. The draft lottery is a few days away. We're talking GMs maybe are not getting interviewed. It's great. It's a good time.
We're going to talk a lot about GMs getting interviewed and GMs not getting interviewed. Irf, we saw you and Dave Pagnotta today on the Daily Faceoff Insider Edition, the Daily Faceoff Rundown, Insider Edition. Just give us what you want to from that episode. I heard, or I saw a name connected potentially.
Yeah, Evan Gold. I don't think it's a secret that there should be interest from the Vancouver Canucks in Evan Gold, and Evan Gold, for promotion in his career would want a general manager job. Currently the general manager in Providence with the Bruins organization. Think that there's going to be some mutual interest there. We'll see where it goes. I think that the Canucks are right now in a time where it was out there that they talked to 15 to 20 candidates. I think that for those listening and watching, talking to 15 and 20 people doesn't necessarily mean there are 15 to 20 interviews that are being had. I think that there are conversations that are had with certain people that they gather info from, that they learn from bright minds in and around the National Hockey League. But when it comes to actual interviews, I don't think that the number was that high. I think that in the next week or so, you're going to start to hear it dwindle down to between 4 to maybe 8 in person. And I think, like we talked about it last week, guys, that is the time where it really starts to matter. When the organization decides it's time to fly these people out, to have them here, to take them out, and to really get into those 2, 3, 4 hour conversations of what is going to improve this hockey team. What does improving this hockey team look like? And that just hasn't happened yet. I think that we saw Brett Pedersen's name be thrown out there as well. And then there was some talk that a lot of the people moving forward are going to be experienced. Now, I don't want to confuse that experience with people that currently aren't in an AGM role, because I think that those people can still be considered to have some experience in a front office job, where as far as rookies go, you may be looking completely somewhere different, as in a director of analytics, as in, in those types of position, a director of player personnel, things like that. So I think when you go and look at it, they're casting a wide net. They're going to talk to as many people as they possibly can to try and get this thing right. And the great thing, I think, here for the Vancouver Canucks is you don't need to rush it, because regardless, you're picking 1, 2, or 3. It's not going to make a difference. You're not at 12 or 13 where you really got to do some homework and make sure you get the right guy. Your 1, 2, and 3 pick is pretty much set up for you. So to have a GM come in whenever they're going to, whether that's next week, whether that's on Friday, whether that's May 15th or 20th, they're going to have their time to get their group of people together that they want to have working with them. I think, like I've said before, I think the AGM structure is going to be different next year with the Vancouver Canucks and the scouting department as well. But yes, Evan Gold is a name that is of interest for sure. Brett Pedersen as well, that was being put out there. I'm not entirely sure about the Marcus Naslund thing. Don't know if Roberto Luongo is a fit here right now. I think he really enjoys, his time in Florida and what's going on with the Panthers and things like that. And then beyond that, there are some other names that we've heard, right? Jamie Langenbrunner, is that a guy that's going to get an in-person interview? Is Mark Bergevin going to get an in-person interview? We know the two sides have talked. So those are just a few. I mean, there's obviously other ones. Things Fitzgerald's out as well here in Vancouver, as is Brad Treliving. I don't think that that's going to happen here as well.
First of all, I think it's encouraging that you mentioned their definition of quote unquote experience is a little bit looser than maybe was initially reported or speculated on, let's say a week and a half ago, where when it was suggested that ownership was looking for the next GM to have experience, a lot of us thought that meant, it needs to be somebody that's previously been an NHL GM. But if we're including candidates who have a lot of AGM experience, being able to check that box, then I think you are able to cast a much wider net. And that's how you get, bright minds like Evan Gold, Brett Pedersen from Florida, involved as candidates. And I think those are a lot more intriguing names to me than, let's say, the Brad Trelivings, the Mark Bergevins.
I agree.
On and on. Broadly speaking, though, what qualities do you think this organization is looking for in the architect of this next team?
You hit the nail on the head right there, because that's a question that I think that I want to know the answer to, because clearly the qualities of the last 2 GMs weren't very good. And maybe they were thought differently. Maybe the Patrick Allvin situation and Jim Rutherford kind of being the head of the snake a little bit here in Vancouver. But I think it's someone that's very forward thinking. I think it's someone that's going to have some fresh ideas, new concepts, different ways to run a franchise. Now that's off the ice, on the ice, everything that goes into that job. I think it's very important to remember that this person could success Jim Rutherford in the position of a president of this hockey team at some point in the potentially near future. So they're going to have that aspect of it. I think someone that has some background, whether it's in marketing or whether it's in, some sort of branding and knowing how to market as well. I mean, you look at Matthew Darsh. Matthew Darsh interviewed here in Vancouver. And he comes from, I believe it was a marketing background or something like that. And he obviously, you saw with what happened and what changes were made with the New York Islanders organization. It helps a lot when you get the number 1 overall draft pick. But the way that organization now, with their social media, with their content, with everything, has moved forward in a positive direction. You need someone that has that mind. There's a lot that needs to go into consideration. The person needs to be good with the media. I think that is an important quality. Someone that isn't afraid to speak, tell the truth, and be available, right? And I think that there's been a lot of talk over these last couple seasons and even years, and even into Jim Benning's tenure, that the availability just wasn't there with the general manager and being open and honest. Now, I'm not saying dude's got to talk every single day of the week, but when there are issues around the team that you're not in behind and you're in front of it, and they're getting in front of their issues if they have any. I think that there's a lot that needs to go into that consideration. Running a hockey team is the hockey team part. Being able to be a killer and make those types of decisions, I think, is even more so. Like, do you have the respect of your other peers in the National Hockey League? Is that why they want someone with experience? Do they already have the cachet among their group? Is a young up-and-comer rookie going to be able to phone up Kenny Holland in LA and have a conversation and try and negotiate a deal? Are you not going to get burned in a deal because you're a rookie? Like, these are types of things that they want to look into. And I think it's a positive. I really do. I think casting the wide net, talking to a very thorough search, looking for a very diverse group of candidates and not being lazy in the process. I think that is definitely something that they are doing. These conversations that are being had, whether they're in the boardrooms for the Vancouver Canucks amongst themselves, are lengthy. And then before they even talk to a client, they already know what they want and expect. So it is going to be a thorough process. And like I've said before, you got to nail this. You have the time to nail it too. This isn't just one of those things where, you're in and around it for the next 3 or 4 years and then see you later. Like, this next GM role probably gets some job security with how long it's going to take for this rebuild. And another thing, are you comfortable with this person coming in and being able to do this rebuild? Ownership knows it's going to take some time, for sure. I think Jim Rutherford looks at this roster and be like, not entirely sure how we're going to win next year. Like, do we have someone that can come in and be comfortable with the losing, but be able to talk to the players and have the players learn that, at some point here, we're going to get some development and things are going to go in the right direction.
Irv, do you think the Canucks have learned anything? Canucks ownership specifically. Do you think they've learned anything in this search?
I think they've learned since the Benning-Linden era a little bit. I think from then, but then you go and you hire Rutherford and Alvin, right? I think the Rutherford and Alvin situation is a very unique one because Jim Rutherford has been around hockey, again, like I said, longer than us three have been alive. And you knew what you were getting with Jim Rutherford. You had a guy who was a killer. You had a guy that had the respect and commanded the room. And then you had Patrick Alvin, relatively new to the situation, relatively new GM. You didn't really know too much about him. He obviously had success in Pittsburgh, but what was he going to be like as a GM? Well, what we know is in the last year, Jim Rutherford was at the helm of a lot of it. Jim Rutherford was the one making a lot of these decisions and big decisions for the Vancouver Canucks organization. So I think that for ownership, getting the right people into the situation is paramount. Now, I think it's out there that Elliott put out there that I think 5 people are conducting the interview portion of this. That's totally fair. I don't think it needs to be just Francesco Aquilini or just Jim Rutherford or whoever else it may be. I think that, as an organization, you want to have all your most important people collaborating together to make the most important decision. And that's exactly what this is for the future of this franchise. And when it comes down to it, the more people that are there collaborating on making sure that this is the right person, I don't know if I'm upset at that. I really don't. do fans want just Jim Rutherford making this decision? I mean, or do you want just, like, I'll even throw it to you guys for some discussion. Like, do you want just Francesco Aquilini making this decision? Jim Rutherford has a hockey mind. Say what you want about him. He's still, obviously employed and has his title for a reason. And then there's other people there as well. Like, I think it needs to be a collaborative effort for sure.
Do we know the answer to this question, Irf? How did they land on Mike Gillis? Who is that? What was the process to get to Mike Gillis?
I'm not entirely sure how far back. I was very young in my time then. I'm a little bit now.
My point being, I don't need an answer, but my point more so being, whatever the process was when you landed Jim Benning, which we know the process then. It was Trevor Linden. Trevor Linden was the president, right? And there's huge revisionist history on the Jim Benning thing. Jim was going to get hired wherever. He was going to get hired somewhere. He was the hot commodity. Like, let's not forget that that's what Jim Benning was at the time. Okay. Same with Willie D. Go back and actually read the archives. Those guys were going to get hired elsewhere. Anyways, whatever your process was to land on that, like, that's who I think should be a part of it. Like, if that was just Francesco acting alone, then boom, send him out there. Francesco, go hire the president, go hire the GM all by yourself. You got it in you, man. You got it in you. Go out and do it. But I also like the idea of, lean on Jim Rutherford's expertise. But you're right. Like, we've been saying this at least for a while, that, hey, whatever, the guy who's responsible for a lot of this mess, Jim Rutherford, I don't think you should just throw him the keys and say, you go ahead and set us up for the next 10 to 15 years when it's very obvious that he's not going to be here for all of those years. Of course not. So I get the collaborative effort. The one thing I'll say is, these third names we're seeing, those are the ones where I'd probably stop it. I'd just be like, okay, you don't have anything to do with hockey ops. You stay on the business side. You just, I'm talking about Michael Doyle, obviously, but I don't think you need to have people that aren't hockey ops or the owner involved in this.
It's fair, but I think that this job is just, it is more than just the general manager of this team. I think that there is a lot more to it. And I think that, coming in, they're going to want to, like you mentioned, Harm, like characteristics, they're going to want someone that has done their homework on this franchise. They're going to want someone that, knows the organization. They're going to want someone that, knows what's going on, the in and outer workings of the ownership group. They're going to want someone that has been there and or not, maybe not been there with this group, obviously, but been there and at least they'll know how to deal with certain situations. So I don't think that by like you mentioning Michael Doyle, I don't think Michael Doyle is going to be the last guy that, his vote or whatever is going to sway a decision one way or the other. I think at the end of it, this is up to Francesco Aquilini, really, because you're the one signing the contract and paying this person. And I think the combined advice or thought process from Jim Rutherford is going to have a very, very large say in this. And I think whoever else is in on the interviews are obviously someone that those two people trust very much.
How serious of a contender do you think Ryan Johnson is for this position? Because there was a lot of smoke around his name early, especially when there were rumors around the Canucks denying the Predators permission to speak to RJ for their vacant GM role. I've also heard some people suggest that, well, if RJ was going to be your guy, why didn't that get done right away? But the thought I've had is, well, we've been asking for this organization to conduct the wide search anyway, even if RJ ends up being the guy, at least go out and cast a wide net, be open-minded in it. And if at the end of that process, you think RJ is the best candidate you've got, go ahead and name him GM. But just this idea that, okay, Alvin's out and Ryan Johnson's immediately in, like, we wanted to see a more thorough process. So now that we're a little bit deeper into it, where do you think RJ stands in all of this?
I don't know who's getting in-person interviews, but if Ryan Johnson isn't getting one, then you know where they're at with the process. It's going to come out eventually of who they're interviewing in person, and maybe they already have in their process here talked to RJ about the role and about what he thinks where this organization is going to go. But they have an idea. The guys just won the Calder Cup, right, with the American League team. I mean, they know what they have in Ryan Johnson. Now, for doing their due diligence and going out and getting information and speaking to other people, I think is hugely important. We want them to do that. But if we don't hear his name here in this round of interviews and throughout this process, as the wide list of 15 to 20 people dwindles down to between 4 and 8, if his name's not among those, then I think where exactly they were thinking on it. Do I think that Is my belief that he will get an interview like that? Absolutely. I do think that. How far that goes remains yet to be seen.
One more just league-wide to shift away from the Canucks search a little bit. A lot of noise lately around Brady Tkachuk. People love speculating about his future, and I guess to some extent, rightfully so, because of the way Matthew left Calgary. And it was just a weird year in Ottawa with a lot of strange storylines, a lot of drama around that team, and ultimately getting swept in 4 games. And even listening to Tkachuk's end of year availability yesterday, he stuck around in Ottawa a little while longer to be available to the media, and hearing his answer about his future, it was interesting to hear. Like, he went out and basically said the noise is frustrating to deal with, but even when he was talking about, I'm committed to this organization, it was and maybe this is me reading a little bit too much into it, but it was, I have been committed to this organization. It wasn't I'm committed to this organization. And that made me honestly think back to, like, using past tense instead of present tense, the Quinn Hughes interview with Elliot Friedman over the offseason. But just stepping back and looking at Brady Tkachuk's future in Ottawa, do you think there's a legit chance he gets moved?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's very legit. I think that the noise around this player started at the All-Star game in Toronto. Was it 2024 or 2023? Maybe, I can't remember when it was. The All-Star game in Toronto is when the noise started. And I think with the distraction, Brady said that it's becoming a distraction.
Yeah.
So you just look at it from that aspect of it. The guy admits it's a distraction. There's your out right there. You've become a distraction, and admittedly so, to your franchise. Do you not want to be part of this, or is it your out where you're going to be like, well, I think it's fair for everyone else that we just move on with this? Like, I definitely think that there's going to be some serious conversation. And look, there's a lot of hockey circles and a lot of hockey people that believe that it will come to a head this summer. And there's a fascinating decision that's going to have to be made from Steve Staios and Travis Green and obviously everyone that is involved with that Ottawa Senators organization. Jacob brought up a great point when we were doing Insider this morning and said, imagine the Brady issue and the Ottawa issue in a Toronto market or in a Vancouver market. I mean, we've had the fair share of issues here in Vancouver, but my goodness, that would be absurd in a Toronto market when you look at it as to kind of everything that's happened with that organization and that team. But yeah, I think that Brady is probably on his way out in Toronto here at some point. I mean, look, he could sign it. He's got 2 years left. Could play next year, sign an extension, then get moved. Like, we've seen that happen before. And he could say all the right things, but at some point, somewhere down the road, he wants to have a really hard look at it and say, is this the best place for me too? And right now, I don't know, 2 years of the lack of playoff success, with all the stuff that's going on off the ice, the bubble for him is about to burst.
And you just know Matthew's got to be in his ear about, like, every day, just
on the podcast.
Yeah,
like, it's public.
They're going to talk about, but they're going to talk about. You don't think that they're going to talk about his press conference? This is the beauty of it. And look, a lot of people don't like it because they don't do media. They have their own media and things like that. Whatever, as long as they're talking and people can hear it, it's great content. But I think that when you look at Matthew Tkachuk, whatever that is, I don't think Florida can ever make that work. So if Brady were to go, like, St. Louis makes the most sense to me, to be honest. Like, that is just the one that's always made the most sense to me. And, they're obviously up for trading players. There's a lot of guys on that roster with a lot of term that I think that they would look at and be like, okay, well, is Brady a fit here? He's a guy that grew up in these parts. His father played a big part in the organization's history and things like that. But yeah, of course, Matthew's in his ear. And I think that after the Olympics, the exodus of the Americans that play in Canada to the US is going to start to take a lot of shape. I really do. We saw it already. I mean, Quinn Hughes went before. Obviously, with the Austin Matthews rumors, you're going to start to see now Brady Tkachuk. I know the other guys, Hellebuck and Kyle Connor, signed in Winnipeg long-term, but they got their bags. But there are a few other guys of that American team and that don't want to play north of the border anymore.
Moving forward, does that, if you're the Canucks, concern you at all? Is it a consideration that hey, some of the it's difficult because on the one hand, the Canadian franchises have been some of the most inept and poorly run. So, and guys want to have an opportunity to win. I think a lot of players would overlook the high taxes, the media pressure, and all of that if they were on a team that year in, year out is a Stanley Cup contender and is like a bar-setting organization around the NHL is the gold standard. I think a lot of players would overlook that if they were in a winning environment, but it isn't always absolute, right? Matthew left, even though Calgary was a wagon that year. So how much of a factor do you think this should be for the Canucks when they go out to make their draft picks this year and build this team for the future?
Well, I think when you make your draft picks, this one, it's easy. You're getting 1, 2, or 3. And then beyond that, you do have to do character research. You do have to look at players and see their past and really ask them the questions, the tough questions. Do you want to be here? Do you want to play here? You have to, it's not out there. The taxes in British Columbia stink, right? As they do in Ontario and as they do in certain other markets. It is just that. I mean, and I think that, like, you hit the nail on the head. It is a winning environment. It is winning culture. It is winning attitude. It is winning organization. It is gold standard. You look at the league right now, Harm, there's maybe 5 teams that really fit that mold. 2 of them are in Florida. 1 of them's in Vegas. Carolina's kind of been there, but they haven't gotten over the hump as to like good franchises that you want to play for and maybe get there. But then beyond that, like the Stars have kind of now entered the conversation a little bit. The Minnesota Wild with what the moves that Bill Guerin are doing, Colorado Avalanche, there aren't many. So how do the Canadian teams get to that? And look, I'm biggest fan is want Canada to win a Stanley Cup as anybody else, but it is a tough ask. It's a tough ask, 1, because of taxes in certain states. And 2, just a lot of American players would much rather play hockey in the United States.
Hey, Irf, last one for me, the Toronto GM search. Mike Futa, John Chayka. I didn't really realize everything John Chayka's done in his life. Those names and Matt Sundin, you're also seeing that one out there. What's going on in Toronto?
I think those are the 2 names that you're going to see. Dave said it today. He thinks those are going to be the 2 if and when it's done. And I think that whether the structure is a VP for Matt Sundin or a EVP or whatever it is, bringing Matt Sundin into the Toronto Maple Leafs, they believe, MLSE believes that is a good thing. That is something that this organization needs. We can just look at it from a standpoint of bringing a guy that was beloved by fans here to an organization and what it did. I mean, the jersey hang from the rafters, right, here at Rogers Arena, and obviously didn't really work out. So is Matt Sundin ready for that? Is Ty Domi going to be in on the mix as well as what's going on there? I think the Chayka thing is interesting. Obviously a guy that, for being 37 years old, has a lot of stuff going on, both on the ice, business-wise, and off the ice. We know how smart he is. We know the analytic company, how much money it makes. We know what he's done in his life with all his business ventures. But then there's the other side of it, right? There's the hockey side of it, where things didn't go well in Arizona, where the franchise was left when he did left. Now, the owner did come out and absolutely sewer him in every single way after. But there were some decisions that were made that were poor and very, very poor. Now, if Chayka has learned from that, and I bet that he interviews as good as anybody and would have went into that interview and absolutely wowed whoever he needed to, then if you trust him to run one of, if not the most important franchises in the NHL, then I'm all for seeing it. I also love chaos, and I don't think that there's a lot of people that in that Toronto market that are going to like this hire. I think that we talk about GMs with a lot of history and a lot of experience in the National Hockey League. I think people may have felt that the Leafs could have went that way a little bit in who they were hiring, but Chayka's interesting. And the thing that matters the most for them is the Austin Matthews connection and what's going to happen there, and how do things kind of sit with Austin Matthews, and how does he see the future of his franchise?
Irf, this is a ton of fun, man. Thank you for doing it. We'll chat with you soon.
It always is. Next week, same different time, same place?
Probably. Well, draft lottery, actually, we'll have you on that show.
Sure, yes. That Tuesday.
Yes.
Cinco de Mayo.
That's right.
Yes.
Sure. Thanks, man.
So hold on. So if the Canucks win the lottery,
the Canucks win, I'll buy around.
It's margaritas for everybody.
No, it's not.
And Harmon's yelling, "Go Canucks, go!"
I'm picking. First of all, I'm picking what gets bought.
So it's
And
Coors
second-
Lights for everybody.
Yeah, in honor of our good friend, man, John Garrett.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. By the way, I never got to talk. Been with Cheech for a long time when I started. So yeah, very, very sad day the last couple of days. But you guys did a fantastic job yesterday. Murph and Shorty on the broadcast were outstanding as well. But yeah, condolences to the Garrett family and everything like that.
Do you have a story that you'd like to share?
Oh my God, so
I know
many.
you've got so many, but like, take your time, think about it. I'll give you some time to think. I'll buy you some time. Harmon's gonna yell, "Go
quickly on
Canucks,
the on the John Chaika thing as well. While you think, Irf, I think the most frustrating potential scenario for how this could play out is Chaika getting the Leafs job, running it poorly because of the way Arizona went, and then everybody in Toronto saying, "Oh, he's an analytics guy. Look what happens when you put a forward-thinking guy." Like, let me just say this right off the bat: we ain't claiming him. Like, when I've got a story, and I don't know how much of it was. Well, I shouldn't say I don't know how much of it. The year the Coyotes had the 5th pick at the 2018 NHL draft, their list was. I spoke to their director of amateur scouting at the time, Tim Bernhardt. Their list was down to Barrett Hayton and Quinn Hughes in terms of who to take. They went deep into interviews with both guys, and the stories I heard for how they came to the conclusion of Hayton over Hughes based on the interview and just like these like abstract ideas that sound forward thinking, but really have nothing to do with quote unquote analytics, like personality driven, character driven tests and whatnot. It was just, I was shocked and blown away hearing that story. And you hear a lot of the other stories, and Bosch did a lot of reporting at the time. Yeah, we ain't claiming him. That's all I'm saying.
I think that, yeah, I mean, look, like I said, the guy can nail an interview. Let's put it that way. Can absolutely woo you by talking to you and things like that. So maybe Keith Pelly believed is buying what he is selling for the organization. But yeah, as far as Cheech goes, look, I made my broadcasting debut on that crew with Murph and Shorty and Cheech. Did some WHL games with him when Sportsnet was doing those Friday night hockey games.
Oh,
those were fun. You know, going to the Pacific Coliseum with, you know, John Garrett and John Shorthouse, and, you know, taking it all in, and, you know, just those games and things like that. But the one that's always funny is, like, I'm a lot taller than John Garrett. So when he and I ever had to do chats post game or what have you, and it wasn't often, Murph was always there, and there were other people there. Usually he was in the booth with Shorty, but he would always either get something to stand on. So it was pretty funny. People would walk by and take pictures, and so we would be at the same height, or I'd have to like bend down and things like that. But yeah, Cheech was always the best. I can't remember if I ever traveled with him. I think most of it was at home. There may have been a trip to Victoria or something like that in it for a WHL game. But yeah, just a world-class human being. Like I said, all three of those guys are the best people that you will ever meet. And not only are they supremely talented broadcasters, they're better human beings. And the world is no longer as great a place as it was with John Garrett, and not in it anymore.
Well said, Irf. You'll never hear a bad Cheech story. So thank you for sharing yours. Appreciate it.
All right, guys.
All right, there he is.
Peace.
Irfaan Gaffar. Come hang out with us and him on Tuesday. Greta, watch party. All right, Harm, let's get to anyone else, which is a presentation of the Vancouver Canadians. I was at the Canadians game last night. I watched Arjun Nimala hit an absolute piss missile to center field, and it was over the scoreboard. Never seen something like that before. And I got this mini stadium. The giveaways at Nat Bailey Stadium this year, absolutely incredible. And for those on the podcast, I'll show it to you. I took it out of the box. I wasn't going to, but I had to take it out of the box. Look at that.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
Isn't that awesome?
That's so sick.
Yeah, look at this. Look at this.
Damn,
Like isn't that awesome?
That's a pretty sick replica.
Yeah, isn't that it is just such a cool It is such a cool piece to have because I obviously love baseball in Vancouver, and as much talk as there is about an MLB team right now, which I'd obviously be excited about. Just the Nat is so much fun, and we're so lucky to have those season tickets this year. And I had a lot of fun. Saw a couple Canucks Convo listeners that said hi, which was really nice. It was nice to chat with some people. And I had some hot dogs for Cheech. I had 3 hot dogs. My buddy, I mean, you know him, our teammate on EVBL, he had 5. He ate 5 hot dogs. And then there was a guy in front of us that ate 8. I don't know, man. Just because the hot dog is 75 cents, just because you can afford to eat 5 hot dogs because they're only 75 cents doesn't mean you should. I don't know. I love hot dogs. I had 3. I had my pretzel. I had my popcorn, and I was happy. But
well, if you're adding other snacks, 3's a lot.
Well,
I think if you're going just dogs, you could go more. You could go 4 or 5.
I guess, but it's just so much hot dog, you know?
Yeah, I feel like I'd probably tap out around 3 to 4 personally.
Yeah. I don't want to get into this MLB stuff, but LC250 says Ryan Reynolds is going to bring an MLB team to Vancouver. He might be part of a ownership group. That's
he can't afford it.
No, he can't even afford an MLS team. Stop it. He can be a part of a group, which is great. Which can be great. Here's the thing that people don't get about Wrexham, okay? Look at what Ryan Reynolds bought Wrexham for. He kind of did it as a joke because it only cost $2.5 million. The guy's got a net worth of $350 million. So again, try to keep up here. He bought Wrexham for $2.5 million. It turned into a tremendous investment because he put money into it, built the show around it, did all that stuff with him and Rob McElhaney. They did that. You're not going to buy an MLB team for anything near that. The Whitecaps are asking for $500 million. And then you got to build a stadium. Give your heads a shake. I'm sorry. I see this all over Twitter. The Ryan Reynolds will come save the day. Just stop it. Please just stop it.
The cost for an MLB team in Vancouver with having to build a stadium, pay an MLB expansion fee, and then put a team, put a team on the field with for your first season, right? Like MLB payrolls are 3 times, if you're trying to be competitive, or like 3 times what you would see out of some NHL teams.
Yeah.
You would be having to drop $5 to $6 billion to get this thing off the ground.
Yeah, and I mean, the Padres just sold for $2.9 million, right?
Yeah,
so
$2.9 billion. Yeah, and my guess is that's roughly what MLB would be looking for in an expansion fee.
They're looking for 3. Yeah.
$3 billion, right?
Yeah.
So,
and then you have to build a stadium,
which will be another $1 billion right there at least. So you're already up to $4 billion, and then you got to get all your staff hired and your players done up, and this isn't Ryan Reynolds and Seth Rogen can team up and bring an MLB team to Vancouver. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about
it's going to be some guy you've never heard of
exactly,
who is worth billions and billions of dollars. Yeah, I like the Chip Wilson theory that we threw out here. But yeah,
he'll just liquidate everything. Everything. He's gonna give up his mansion by Point Grey Road and sell Lululemon, and he's just gonna live on the streets and be an MLB team owner.
That's right. We haven't really touched on the Whitecaps thing. It bothers me. It's sad. Now it does sound like at least the province is coming around and BC Place is coming around on the letting the Whitecaps just say, okay, you run BC Place. Like what are we doing so wrong? What do you want this deal to look like? So that's some progress. But ultimately, Jacob, are the Whitecaps going to sponsor us this summer, do you think?
Possibly.
All right. Whatever, I'll just say it. Ultimately, I think this is a Whitecaps ownership group that is in public saying, we want to do everything we can to keep the Whitecaps in Vancouver, and they might have some legitimate gripes with the stadium deal. I understand that. But ultimately, I think all this is going to lead to is the Whitecaps eventually just having to say, actually, we bought this team for $30 million. What did they buy it for? Yeah, $30 million. We bought this team for $30 million. It's worth $500 million now. We're actually going to be way better off if we just sell it to someone that's going to relocate it. We've made our money. We've got our investment. That was a great investment for us. See you later.
And the hope would be that they could sell it to someone who's willing to keep it here, keep the team here.
No,
but
I'm sure they might hope that, sure, but they'll take the money. They'll take the money.
But I think they might be willing to hold out a little longer to keep the team here, because MLS is basically saying like you need your own stadium, but they will let the team play at BC Place longer if there's a better deal in place, the team gets sold to new owners, and there's a stadium. Like there's multiple steps involved. And I'm sure like Matt and Blake talk about this way more than we do. So if you're really interested, they've got a bunch of stuff on their channel. They've got really educated people coming on talking about the whole situation. But yeah, like there's it in my eyes, like it's enough of a struggle to try and find an ownership group for saving the Whitecaps and getting a soccer stadium built, which would be 25,000 to 30,000 tops. As far as capacity, which would be a lot cheaper than a 35 to 40,000 seat baseball stadium. So like if we can barely, if there's not even someone in place to buy the Whitecaps, then like the MLB thing is never going to happen. And that's coming from a baseball fan.
I disagree. There's a lot more money in baseball than there is.
I know there's a lot more money in baseball, but again, if nobody can even afford to buy the Whitecaps right now and view Vancouver as a market, which it's an already established MLS market, they're selling out games,
but it's an MLS market, Jacob. There's people interested in buying an MLB team here. Those people can afford the Whitecaps. They are not interested in buying.
I get that, but I find it. I mean, there's.
I don't think the things are related. Personally, I don't think the things are related.
But look at the NBA. There's been talks of the NBA would work in Vancouver. There's got to be someone who'd be interested in bringing the NBA back to Vancouver, and I've been hearing that for 15 years. And it's never happened. And there's more money in the NBA than there is in MLB and MLS combined. So again, like if these people exist and are actually serious about it, you know, we're running out of time here for the Whitecaps. And as far as MLB, there's a longer runway. But I don't see it when it comes to MLB. And I'm hoping someone will step up for the Whitecaps. Like save what you got before you start trying to bring in new teams.
Well, again, but that's the thing is like they're just different. They're just different. The Gary Mason article about the MLB, we didn't even touch on that because it came out on Monday night, I think it was. I don't know if we even have time to get to that today, but the Gary Mason article, like that suggested, and again, I said this a few weeks ago when Ken Sim went on Halford and Bruff. It was like, oh no, this sounds a lot more serious than just like, oh, it's election season. The mayor's just going to throw out, oh, let's bring an MLB team. Like, there's an interested group. There's an interested group in bringing baseball to Vancouver. Now, there's lots of hurdles to get through, and we'll see what ends up happening. But man, like you don't want to lose the Whitecaps at the end of the day. You don't want to lose the Whitecaps. All I'm saying is that the things are very not related. I don't think.
Sure.
Like I don't think it's, oh my gosh, you can't save the Whitecaps. How can you possibly have an MLB team? They're just not related.
Yes, but I do think like even though they're not related, it optically it still matters in my opinion, right?
Sure.
Fight.
Well, no, Jacob's right about that.
Yeah, like optically, if you're trying to convince Major League Baseball to expand to Vancouver, and you've just dealt with a 1.5 to 2 year long fiasco with the city's MLS team that couldn't result in a stadium and couldn't result in them staying, why would the MLB board of directors then grant Vancouver an expansion team? And I know you're right that it's not related, but optically it's going to matter.
That's the thing that would be hilarious is if it was like, okay, we might have lost the Whitecaps, but there's this great group. Sure, Ryan Reynolds is in there. Throw whoever you want in there. Again, Ryan Reynolds name dropped in the Gary Mason article, by the way. But anyways, here comes this great group that's ready to put forth a bid, only to lose the bid and finish as the runner-up to like I don't know Salt Lake City or whatever. Charlotte,
Nashville,
one of these cities, Nashville.
Portland.
See, here's the thing: Portland doesn't make sense to me. But Nashville
does. Charlotte does. Raleigh, one of the North Carolina
Nashville
cities.
Really makes sense, I think. Like Nashville makes a ton of sense. So we'll see. Might come down to Vancouver, Nashville. My point being, it'd be hilarious if Vancouver lost. Well, not hilarious, but optically, like you're saying, Jacob, they lose the MLS team. They don't worry. We've got this great ownership group that's going to put forth a bid, and then they lose the bid, and it amounts to nothing.
Don't worry. I'm looking forward to 2030 when I can watch games at Lululemon Stadium.
All right. Okay, we got a super chat that's 2 days old, and it's about hockey, so let's get to it. Colin Whitehead, and we appreciate Colin's super chat from a few days ago, said, Harmon Quads, do you think McDavid asks for a trade if the Oilers lose in round 1 this year?
Very tough to predict what McDavid would think, right? You're asking me to basically put myself in his brain. I think I'm inclined to think that he would give them one more chance, right? Because he is a loyal guy, and even for the sake of his legacy, if he gives it one more season, he can leave. And I don't think anybody would blame him if after the end of next season they fail to get it done, and he says, "All right, at that point, I have 1 year left on my contract, but I'm not going to re-sign beyond this current deal. And so if you guys want to cash in on me, which of course the Oilers would need to, if McDavid tells them that he isn't going to stick beyond his current extension, then they'd have to move him. So I think he gives them one more shot, but never say never. You never know how people react to these kinds of situations.
I absolutely agree with you. I was going to say the exact same thing, that I just think that this extension he just signed hasn't even kicked in yet. He's going to give him another year, I think. Again, he's the captain of the team. He's hurt right now. Like, I'm sure he wants another kick at it. So, yeah, I agree with you on that.
All right. And there's also the narrative of we made back-to-back finals and we had the Olympics, 4 nations, just the wear and tear. Let's use this summer to all heal up. If they do get bounced from round 1, it'll be a longer off season, and we're going to put it all together for one final kick at the can.
Yeah, 100%.
It's easy to buy that narrative, I think, if you're Connor.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Anything else you want to get to? Oh, yeah, playoff hockey. I'm just excited for tonight's games, man. Tonight's games, there's going to be so much action. You've got Habs, Lightning, Penguins, Flyers, RDC Loves making it a series. You've got Mammoth, Golden Knights. That one, of course, tied 2-2. So that's game 5. The other ones, or no, yeah, it's game 5 with Tampa, Montreal as well. It's Philly, Pittsburgh. That is game 6. So Penguins on the road.
Funny. It's so funny with the Penguins Flyer stuff, because Rick Tocchet keeps talking about we need to get traffic in front. A lot of talk about point shots, which is so funny to me, because obviously Tocchet has a scouting report on Shilovs that he struggles with shots from distance when there are screens in front. But also it fits perfectly into, a lot of Rick Tocchet coach teams take a lot of point shots anyway and like to just collapse in front and send a lot of traffic down low. It's a perfect storyline. It's such a Canucks storyline for a Penguins versus Flyers series.
Yeah, 100%, man, 100%. Last night's games, the Wild, unfortunately, take a 3-2 series lead over the Stars. The Sabres can't get it done. They lead that series 3-2. Boston wins that one. And then the Oilers take care of business. Pods scores a goal. Shout out Pods, man. Look at Pods go. Yeah, Oilers now are heading into game 6, down 3-2 in that series.
Yeah, I think for Dallas, they've gone, the most interesting thing for me is they've gone over 200 minutes of 5-on-5 without scoring a goal. Think about that. 200 minutes, more than that. It's 207 to be exact, I think. They've been outscored 14-4 at even strength in the series. So that's deeply concerning to me. Now, part of it is they're shooting 2.6% at 5-on-5, right? Part of it is a bad luck thing, but part of it is also, this looks like the version of the Dallas Stars that I saw at the start of the season, where their power play is so lethal, but they can't score at 5-on-5. And with Rope hints out, they just don't have speed, right? You look at a lot of their top forwards. Rantanen, we suspect, might be playing through an injury. He, of course, missed a bunch of games in the second half of the season. But Rantanen, Robertson, Johnson, all elite players, but none of them are dynamic through the neutral zone. And you're watching these games against the Minnesota Wild. The Stars don't get many 5-on-5 looks off the rush, right? It's really only been off the cycle at times when they can get some looks, but there's just nothing dynamic happening for them, and that's concerning for me. If I'm assuming most Canucks fans are pulling for the Stars to win this series.
Yeah, myself included. All right, let's do it. Tankathon. We've got 2 of them today, Jacob.
Yes, we do. We didn't do the Tankathon yesterday. Obviously, it didn't seem right. So we'll do it twice today to catch up. And yeah, we are less than a week away from it happening for real. Here's our first sim. And Seattle moves up to 1. Vancouver falls to 2. Again,
Seattle takes Chase Reed number 1.
Yeah, Seattle takes Caleb Malhotra at number 1, maybe. No, Seattle moves up. Vancouver to 2. All right, one more time.
Oh, did you see Columbus jumped up 10 spots in that one?
Oh, I did not even notice that. And we got another team jumping up 10 because New Jersey jumps up 10 and Seattle jumps up 3. So this is one of those where the Canucks don't actually win the lottery, but still pick first overall because New Jersey cannot actually move up to first overall. So
can we get a lottery expert for my brain's gonna break watching the live drawing. I'm gonna have no freaking clue what's going on, and I'm supposed to be hosting the show. I'm literally gonna be sitting there like, oh, okay, so what's happening now? Like, I'm gonna have no, how many draws do they? I don't know. I actually don't want the answer to that. I don't want the answer.
So I shouldn't book like an SFU mathematician to come join us, or statistics professor.
Cool. Yeah, book him. Book that guy. Yeah, book him. Do you know one?
No, I don't. Someone's saying that I need to hit reset before hitting sim again. I don't think it makes a difference.
No, that's after you do a sim.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure when you just hit sim lottery, it does automatically restart. Resetting is just if you wanted to actually reset to the existing order to view that again. Just hitting sim lottery over and over, just it automatically resets. So don't worry, we didn't taint the results there.
See, now Mike in the Valley, this is a good thing. He brought this up. He said, "Oh, everything's done behind the scenes." It's not anymore. It's all broadcast. Like the drawing of the lottery balls is now broadcast live. Like you're gonna see the combinations in real time. Obviously it was all rigged before, but now you're gonna see the balls actually coming out, and you're gonna see, Gary Bettman waddling around the set and talking to the mathematicians and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it'll be cool. But I'm still gonna have no clue what's going on. Hopefully the broadcast does a good job of explaining it, because I'm gonna be lost, I'm sure. Just a hunch. All right. Anything else, Arm?
Nope.
All right. Also, I started my Vancouver Canadians ad read and then just talked about the cool giveaway. The C's are at home this week. You can get your tickets by calling 604-872-5232 or check out canadiansbaseball.com. Just a game in the chat said they actually do multiple takes and go with the one where the Canucks drop the most. I like that. That's absolutely true. I like that. And Mike in the Valley said, I wonder if they publish the numbers each team had first. They do. If you recall, the Canucks were one number off of Connor Bedard. They almost won the Connor Bedard sweepstake. There were a number of teams that were one number off, but the Canucks were one of them. One number off winning the lottery. So anyways, because it's 5 balls, right? So anyways. Before I tell you about our Bet365 bet of the day, I want to make sure I tell everybody about Daily Faceoff, all access pass to the playoffs. Some great stuff going on at Daily Faceoff right now. Check them out on socials. Check out the YouTube channel as well. And of course, dailyfaceoff.com for all your playoff coverage needs. All right. Bet365 bet of the day brought to you by, you guessed it, Bet365. Harm, what game do you like tonight? This is an interesting one. Interesting NHL slate tonight.
Yeah. I don't know. What are you feeling? You're the vibes guy.
I like Jacob, I'm gonna do it. I hate to do it to you.
Oh, you gonna jinx the Habs?
The Habs are huge underdogs tonight.
Which the last time you picked them as underdogs, they won. I think that was
yeah. They're back in Tampa.
Earlier in the series.
They're back in Tampa. The Habs are on the road, obviously. And you can get Habs money line at plus 145 odds.
She's crazy. Like,
taking it.
Why I know that the odds makers adjust based on where the money is going, but why would anybody who has watched that series just assume Tampa is going to win because they're at home? Every game has been a 1-goal game. 3 of them have gone to overtime. Like, you would think the odds are sitting right around a pick 'em, as they should.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree with you. I'm taking that Habs money line plus 145. You can get that over at Bet365. If you're tired of waiting for the end of the game to get paid, you're ready to move on to the next puck drop. That's why Bet365, an official partner of the NHL, has 3-goal early payout. If the team you're riding goes up 3 goals at any point in the game, they'll pay your bet out early. Hockey moves fast, and now with 3-goal early payout, there's one less thing you have to wait around for. Bet365, download the app and see what early payout's all about. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. Hey, wanted to mention this, okay? Fill out your Family Feud surveys. But also, because we're going to play tomorrow, but also hitting the Canucks Conversation podcast feed this afternoon tomorrow morning as well. 2 episodes. The third one, because I said we did 3 or 4 with Cheech, the third one is lost. Faber and I are working on it to try to find it. The first one we ever did with Cheech, I wasn't part of the show. That was just Faber. So it's just on his laptop somewhere. I can't find it. We're hoping to find that one. We're going to republish all of the the 2 that I'm talking about, because again, that first one is missing. We're gonna try to find it, but I found 2 of them, 2 episodes, 2 interviews with Cheech. We're gonna put them out on the podcast feed for everybody to be able to go find easily. Yeah, man, I was listening to it today, hearing that old intro, hearing the quality of Faber and I's mics at the time. It brought me back, man. It brought me back, and of course, hearing Cheech. And the interview we did, the first one that we're going to put out tonight, was we had Cheech and Murph on a Zoom call together. Actually, yes. No, it wasn't a Zoom call. It wasn't a Zoom call. It was, I believe, a phone on speakerphone, and we merged the calls. And that was how we interviewed Cheech and Murph. Our setup was wild back then. It really was. It really, really was. But anyways, we were talking to those guys in June of 2020, before the bubble playoffs, before we even knew what the bubble was going to look like. So that's some context for that. And I'll do a quick thing for each one where I record, give some context of what was happening at the time, what we're talking about, and then you can go listen to it. We're going to have those out Wednesday evening, I think. Yeah, Wednesday and Thursday for sure. So you can look forward to that, but really excited for people to hear those interviews, because I was listening to them today, and yeah, it was a little emotional, but it was great. It was great to just look back and, remember the times we had with Cheech.
Yeah, and if anyone didn't catch it last night, the broadcast with Shorty and Murph coming on, joining David Amber to talk about Cheech. Beautiful segment. Sportsnet posted it on their socials, so check that out as well. That was really beautifully done.
And shout out to the Oilers. The video tribute for John Garrett. You weren't expecting that, but man, that was beautiful. That was great. So
I'm pretty sure before Cheech came to Vancouver, he was on Oilers broadcast for a little while too,
for a
right?
season. Yeah, for like a season. Yeah.
And
so Calgary.
Good on them.
Calgary.
Yep. And then he did some stuff with Calgary.
Yeah. All right. Okay. We'll close it out there. For my co-host Harmon Dial and our technical producer Jacob Lazar. Thanks so much. Oh yeah, my name's David Woodrelli. Thanks so much for this episode of Canucks Conversation.
Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.